Hey guys, it's Vandiazol back at another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoy, don't like, comment, subscribe, and down to the Patreon. And let's get one started. Today we have Stoicheia, Zorga, the Magician of the Dead, the Necromancer of the Graveyard. That made little no sense. I ruined that intro. Point is, Zorga, the ruler of the seas with the power of alchemagic by his side to use multiple orders at once in the same ordery move to make a alchemagic order, has arrived for set 3. In my opinion, I don't like a lot of the things that came out of set 3, which was why I only run one new card out of set 3, but set 3 has a lot of good stuff, and because of how Zorga works, you can really run whatever you want, so even if you don't like this build, go experiment, because honestly, they gave us a lot of options for Zorga decks, and they're all really good options. I just chose this one because it's more comfortable for me to use. So let's go ahead and get this deck started. First up, we have our starter in Dream Nibbling. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto wins Rid upon. If you win second, you draw a card. Nothing too special about it, just a standard draw. It's really weird looking. Whew, this thing is weird looking as hell. I like this thing more than I like this fat ass ghost. Their full art looks really good though, so I'll give them that. But otherwise, I question why you run the starter. Trigger-wise, we run 1 over trigger in Source Dragon Deity of Blessing's Blessfavor. 5k power, 50k shield, grade 0 with boost. Over trigger, you may have 1 over trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, remove that card, draw a card, choose one of your 6 plus 1 million for the turn. If revealed during draft check, activates additional effect, which is draw a card, choose one of your gets plus 1 crit, all of your front row gets plus 10, and if your damage zone has 4. If your damage zone is the same or equal to your opponent's, you heal a card. So it's an everything bagel. So guaranteedly, whether you draft check or damage check this, someone's getting a million and you get to draw for the turn. And if you draft check it, you get an additional draw, followed by you get every other trigger. So, all around, it's really good. Like in every deck, I can more or less make an argument for why you would want to run Obari. This is the one where it's really hard to, because this is a straight up everything bagel. Like, someone gets a million, if you draft check this, someone gets a million, someone gets a draw, you get a crit on someone, your whole front row gets plus 10, which they already have a good amount of power, so now they're getting more power, and you get to heal. All around, this over trigger does everything. The only problem with this is most of the time you might mill it, because you do mill a decent amount, or like you might soul blast it, you might soul charge it, you might draw into it. Honestly, I rarely draft check this thing in this deck. I think I've damage checked / draft checked it once each, and then after that I've never seen it again. In between those I've drawn it, of course, but otherwise it normally goes away from me. So all around, Blessfavor is a really good over trigger. It's just the over trigger I see the least, so I get to enjoy it the least. So 1 copy. And then the remaining triggers, 3 copies of Lost Child of Attachment, draw trigger, grade 0, boost, 5k shield, standard draw trigger, nothing too special about it. I do run draws because to use Zorga, you need at least 1 order in your hand. You can't get orders if you don't draw. Plus the amount of orders I run makes it so that like you have less defensive power options, so even though you're sacrificing overall shield for child, even though you're sacrificing bigger shield in a trigger for child, you are essentially getting more shield. Because, like, child on its own, yeah, it has less shield than other triggers, but it gets you possibly more shield because it allows you to draw into more things. So attachment is better in my opinion. If you don't want to run draws, run 7 crit, but in my opinion, I prefer the 3 draws. So Last Child of Attachment, 4 copies of Frenzied Heiress, 4k power, 15k shield, grades with boost, front trigger, continuous guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 it's a 20k shield. So really nice that we have a 20k shield option, making it easier for you to defend, especially when your hand is overrun with orders, because I know a lot of games have ended with me dying because my hand has been overrun with orders. Frenzied Heiress definitely helps with that, plus giving the front row plus 10, making their attack stronger, is also really helpful, so 4 copies. And then 4 copies of our critical trigger, which is Aspiring Maiden Alana. I cannot tell you how many times I will mill orders, how many times I will mill triggers for my milling skills, so having a trigger that I can call back from drop that still has a skill is really helpful, especially because the deck sometimes will have a soul problem, and for some reason I rarely see my Hendrina. There are rare occasions where I will just not see a Hendrina the whole game, somehow will just stay, all 3 of them will stay in deck, because I used to run 4, then I took 1 out, and then for some reason now all 3 of them are staying in deck. So anyways, this critical trigger is a 4k base as well, 15k shield, grades with boost, auto rear at the end of the battle, boost to shove it to soul, choose movie hits, and it gets plus 2 for the turn. So, a way to get extra soul, which is really nice, especially because in the case where you can't find Hendrina, or like in the case where you have to soul blast besides for Hendrina, because the new doggo soul blast, and Hendrina cannot prevent you from soul blasting for it. It's a good way to get soul, and the 2k, well, it doesn't really help that much, and it still makes your booster slightly more powerful. So Anna, I'll accept. I like her, 4 of. And then we have our 4 of heal and Elegy Pixy, which is, I don't know why every time I look at this I think it's a dragon, but then I look at it again and then it doesn't look like a dragon, then I look away and then I look at it again, it looks like a dragon again, so I don't know why. Either way, Elegy Pixy is really cool looking, and we are getting a new world trigger version of her, or like original world version of her, so if it had a skill back in the original then I would say cool, but it doesn't. So 4 copies of Elegy Pixy though, because it's cool. On to our grade 1s. First up, we have 2 copies of Sleeve Tugging Beauty Belle. All orders will be at the end. None of them were in terms of ordered grades, they're at the end of the deck profile, so if you want to skip to the orders, you can. So 2 copies of Sleeve Tugging Belle, 7k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto, when this unit is placed on rear, you may put all cards from your bind zone to drop. If you do, it gets +5 for the turn for each card put. Now, there is another card that you could run, where it's when it's placed on rear, I think you counterblast 1 to get an order from your bind zone. It is something, get an order from the bind zone. And I can understand why, because you want to like kind of, or maybe it's getting an order from the drop zone. Either way, it allows you to play more orders. Reason why I like this one is it basically resets all of your Alchemagics. So if you still have orders in hand, but you don't have the right orders in drop, you can just quickly put them back into drop their ones are in bind, and then you still get a lot of power from it. So all around really good. It definitely works as a finisher, and you can keep constantly calling her because Zorga is a thing. So all around it works really well, and I like this card. 2 of course, because of how this works, that means one order in particular that a lot of people might run is not ran in this deck, so take that as you will. Next up, we have 4 copies of Rogue Headhunter. Grade 1, boost 5k shield, 8k base, continuous rear. If you played an order this turn, it gets +5k power, so 13k booster, which is really nice. And auto, when it's placed on rear, the next time you would Alchemagic an order and play it this turn, reduce its cost by counterblast 1, reduce it from the total cost, does not countercharge even if it becomes negative. So basically a way to make your order cost 0, because not a lot of these orders counterblast, I think only very few of them. So if you play Rogue Headhunter, it automatically countercharge, or like it doesn't countercharge, it makes the cost 0 unless you're playing both of the orders in this deck that have a counterblast cost. And you know, he's a 13k base, and he just makes it a lot easier to play your orders. And if you combine with Hendrina for the ones that counterblast and soul blast, they effectively become free. 4 copies of Headhunter. 4 copies of Planar Prevent Dragon. 6k base, grade 1, boost, 0 shield, continuous sentinel, you have up to 4 sentinels in your deck. Auto is placed on guard circle, choose one of your units, it cannot be to end a battle, and if your hand has 2 or more cards, you choose a card from your hand and discard it. So standard PG, nothing too special about it, but what's really good about it is that if this and only one other card is in your hand, when you would play this PG down, you don't have to discard anything, which means you can be as aggressive as you want, and no one can hit you, and especially because how Zorga works, we can constantly call stuff from drop, it's even better, which means you can be defensive and aggressive. You still have to be slightly more defensive than aggressive, but because of how PGs work, if you see a lot of them in your opening hand, you can kind of just start calling down your rear guards in your hand that are really good to the board, which somehow all of my good rear guards end up in drop. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, I'm not going to say it's a good thing either though, and it allows you to just let the PG kind of flow. All around, I like it a lot. This PG is amazing. 4 of. 1 copy of our last grade 1, who is in our ride deck, and our main grade 1 obviously, Rancor Chain. Grade 1, boost, 5k shield, 8k base. This is one of the few decks that can actually take advantage of the grade 1s if they get into drop zone, because you can fetch them out of, you can put them into drop zone and then Zorga can call it back, so worst case scenario you can soul blast this out. Active Vanguard, once per turn, soul blast 1, draw 2, choose up to 1 order from your hand and discard it. If you did not discard, you choose 2 cards from your hand instead and discard them. So it's really good, because it gets you a free 2 draw on your first turn, and if you're going second, you got 3 draws, 1 from the start or 2 from this thing. And the good news is you get to draw first, so if you don't have an order in your hand, and then you draw, and then you get an order, you can discard 1 instead of discarding 2. Either way, it's a good thing, even if you do have to discard 2, because it's giving you fodder for later to call. Hell, maybe you want to not discard an order, and then still discard an order, but then discard an additional card, maybe just so you can fetch one of them with Zorga, and then just fetch an order back for later. So all around, or just discard 2 orders, because fuck it. And then continuous rear, if you play an order during this turn, it gets +2, so it's a 10k base. Yeah, that's why this is at 1. It's, if the Act Vanguard skill was a rear guard ability, it would be a lot better, but it's still fine, and I like this grade 1, so 1 of in the ride deck. If you can get out of drop, if you can get out of soul with the soul blast orders and then put it into board with Zorga, then I guess you could use the 2k skill, but it's not really worth it. Next up, we have 3 copies of our first grade 2 Inheritance Maiden Hendrina, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Auto, when it's placed on rear, you may discard the top 3 cards of your deck. So basically, mill 3. It is a May clause, so you don't have to do it, but you might want to do it just to increase your drop zone even more so that you have more Alchemagic fodder for later. And for some reason, what I've learned from Gravidia is that even if it's a May clause, if you believe that decking yourself out would work, deck thinning will become a thing, and deck thinning is deck winning. So if you have faith that it will work, then do it as much as physically possible, even if it makes no sense. If you're at 4 deck cards, do it. I mean, that might not be a good idea, but still. And then act rear, retire this unit until end of turn. The next time you would Alchemagic in order and play it, you may choose not to pay all of its Soul Blast cost. All of that cost Soul Blast. So, basically, it says you may choose not to. So you could just do it. You could just retire her to open up a rearguard circle and then still play the Soul Blast. I don't know why you would do that. I really don't, but sure. I mean, either way, it's still a good ability because you're basically making it so that you can Soul Blast where you don't have any Soul Blast for your orders, and typically you don't Soul Blast a lot. Now the doggo Soul Blast, so this has actually become a better thing, and why I got rid of 1 copy of it, I have no idea. But Inheritance Maiden is still really good. Makes your Soul Blast for free, and most of your orders have some form of Soul Blasting. So all around, she's an amazing grade 2 because she mills out, possibly gets you more orders and drop, gets you fodder for Zorga to call, and can make your orders for free. 3 copies of this grade 2. If you want to run it at 4, get rid of 1 copy of Headhunter. Next up, we have 4 copies of Cloaked Shadow. 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. I'm tempted not to run this, and I'm tempted to run it because I don't like its art, but I do like its skill. So, and I run that territory with it. Auto, when it's placed on rear from hand, search your deck for up to 1 order card and reveal it. And if your drop zone does not have a card with the same name as it, discard the revealed card and shuffle your deck. So basically, when it's placed, you have to search your deck. You don't have to reveal something. Just search your deck for up to 1. So you can just search your deck to shuffle and see what's left in there. So basically, search your deck and mill an order if your drop zone doesn't have an order. So basically, a way to get more Alchemagic fodder, which is really nice, and it's a direct Alchemagic fodder, unlike Hendrina, so it's really nice for that. And auto rear, when you would play an order, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets +5 for the turn, and if it's during Alchemagic, choose one of your other rear guards, you may return it to hand. So on the off chance that you can't use, it says when you play an order. Oh, so you can use this during the opponent's turn too. So if you run Blitz orders, and you can use it during the opponent's turn to make it harder to hit, and it can bounce another rear guard to hand. Suddenly this dog is better than I thought it was, but I don't run Blitz orders in my Zorga deck until they make a Zorga. I'm assuming Great Mage Stoicheia is going to be the card that can Alchemagic from during your opponent's turn as well, or with Blitz orders. When they make something that can Alchemagic with Blitz orders, that's when I'll decide to run Blitz orders in a Zorga-based deck or in an Alchemagic deck. Until then, I won't do it. So, either way, it's really good because, hell, you can just use Zorga, call down a PG from drop, play an order, use Cloaked Shadow skill, Soul Blast, bounce the PG back to hand, and this gets +5. So all around, really good, gets the +5 guaranteed, and it's a way to get hand cards back, get your PGs back, get your triggers back. All around, Zorga becomes a lot more useful, Hendrina becomes a lot more useful, everything in this deck becomes a lot more useful because Cloaked Shadow allows them to be recycled better, and same with Zorga because he can call them, this can bounce them to hand, etc, etc. Cloaked Shadow's an amazing grade 2, and I love it for this, and yet I always forget to use this skill, which sucks a lot. 4 of. And then 1 copy of Black Tears Husk Dragon, our last grade 2 and our main grade 2, who goes in the ride deck. 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Auto, when it's placed on van, choose up to 1 normal order from your drop zone and put it to hand. It continues rear guard. If you played an order this turn, it gets +5. So basically, it's a 15k if you played an order, and the second you place it, the order that you discarded for Rancor Chain goes to hand. So all around, it's a really good grade 2. And I like it, and unlike most other ride lines, it doesn't require the grade 1 or 2 for the ride line. Same with Rancor Chain, so you can basically use the budget Zorga grade 3 and it still works, which is why I like it so much. So 1 copy of Husk Dragon because it's really good. And then our last normal unit before we get onto our orders is our 1 and only grade 3, and our main grade 3 at that. 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the ride deck of Mysterious Range Spiritualist Zorga. Grade 3, 200% right, 13k base. Continuous Vanguard. When you would play a normal order, you combine a normal order with a different card name from your drop and Alchemagic it. Combine the cost and add the effect to the back. Act Vanguard once per turn, counterbalance when choose a card from your drop zone and call it to rear. So basically a way just to get a rear guard. Standard ability for, I guess, a Grand Blue based card. And the funny thing is, it's like so simple. You never expect a Grand Blue card would just have an ability that just says, Counterblast 1, call a card from drop to rear, and let it be the main grade 3, because it seems so simple, but it's skill. And then, it has the ability to make Alchemagic, which is the most important part, because it allows your orders to be... It doesn't count as playing 2 orders, it just counts as playing 1 orders, but it allows for multiple orders to go off at a time, and allows for versatility. So all around, Zorga's really good, and I like it. 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the right deck. On to our orders now. We run 2 copies of Spiritual Body Condensation. Grade 1 normal order, play it by Soul Blasting 1, choose a card with grade equal to or less than your Vanguard from your drop, call it to rear, and it gets +5 for the turn. So basically, with Hendrina, this is just a call something from drop, gets +5. Because you normally play this when you're in grade 3, because you don't want to waste any orders early on. Then again, I feel like there are games where you want to kind of just play that order early, just to get it into drop maybe, or because it's the best time to play it. When those days come, I will do it. Until then, I will not play an order until I'm at Zorga. So either way, Spiritual Body Condensation is a really good order. I run all these orders at 2 because they're all versatile, so... I don't want to favor one over the other, also because they all have their own purpose, so 2 of Spiritual Body Condensation. I also run no Blitz orders, because you cannot Alchemagic with Blitz orders, and I hate Ghost Chase, to be more exact, I don't run Ghost Chase in this deck, because it takes up the order too much, and I already have enough orders. The second we get a Blitz order user, though, I will do it. Next up, we have 2 copies of Nectar of Sensationalism. Grade 2 normal order, choose one of your rear guards until end of turn, it gets +5k power for every 5 cards in your drop, and if your drop's on is 15 or more cards, it gets +1 crit. So basically, mill out a lot with Hendrina, play this, Alchemagic it with this, or to be more exact, play this, Alchemagic it with this, use this to call something, because you use the order that you played from hand, and then you use the order that you Alchemagic from drop with, which is just binding the order, and then you call a unit, give that unit +5, use this card, give that same unit the plus at least 15 and an extra crit, boom, bam, boom, the rear guard's hitting for like +20 and extra crit. So all around, Sensationalism is really good, definitely works as a finisher, works as an early game card, especially because you can just Zorga this back onto the field and then put Sensationalism into drop if you used it early on to get that +5, so all around, good order, 2 of. Next up, we have Grief, Despair, Rejection. Grade 3 normal order, play it by Counterblasting 1. If your Vanguard is Mysterious, Rain, Spiritualist, Zorga, choose 3 of your units and they get +10 for the turn. So all around, this order is basically the equivalent to a Persona Ride, where you cannot use it with Budget Zorga because it requires Zorga on the Vanguard, and Budget Zorga doesn't have Zorga in the deck, so which sucks. But it's a Counterblast, which can be used by Rogue Headhunter to make it so that it's free, and you get a Persona Ride, basically. So all around, and plus a Persona Ride, this is +20. And in the early game, back when D only had the first set, oh my god, that would do so much. Double Persona Ride, basically. So much power out of it. 2 copies of Grief, Despair, and Rejection. Just 2, it's really good. 2 copies of Cursed Souls, Wriggle and Agony. Grade 3 normal order, play it by Soul Blasting 2. Look at top 4 cards from your deck, choose up to 1 unit card from among them, call it to rear, and discard the rest. If during Alchemagic, call it to 2 instead of 1 to rear, and all of this order's called units get +5 for the turn. So basically, Soul Blast 2 or play Hendrina and Soul Blast nothing, look at top 4, call 2, and they get +5 each. So if you combo it with this one, if they call them both to the front row, they basically get +15. So all around, Cursed Soul, Squirming, and Agony, really good order, get you a field. The only reason why I run it at 2 is because I don't trust my luck with it, because literally every time I use it, I see at least 2 triggers, and one of them is always a heal. Not always a heal, one of them is always a crit. So 2 copies of this, because the day will come where I get actual good mills. Until that day comes, I will keep hoping. And then our last order is, and our last card by the way, is the grade 3 normal order, Regurgitation from the Underworld. And I already said what type it is and what grade it is, play it by Counterblasting 1 and Soul Blasting 1. So the first order of the group to do both, so if you have a Hendrina and a Rogue Headhunter, this is essentially free, but of course if you combine it with Grief, Despair, and Rejection, it's still Counterblast unless you call it a second Rogue Headhunter. Choose one of any player's rear guards, retire it, choose up to 1 card from your drop zone with the same grade as it, and call it to rear. If you used it during Alchemagic, you call it 2 instead. So if you combine it with Cursed Soul, Squirming, and Agony, and you play a Headhunter and a Hendrina, you pay nothing for it, and then depending on which one you used first, you probably use this one first, mill 4, look at top 2, call 2, and then use this to kill a rear guard, and then call 2 equal to that rear guard's grade. So All around, Regurgitation from Underworld is really good. It gets rid of a rear guard on your opponent's that may be pesky, or gets rid of one of your rear guards that may be holding you back, or just you want to put into drop zone, and then you can call 2 more things. And while they don't get power, it's 1 rear guard for the price of 2. So, yeah, all around, it means 2 rear guards for the price of 1. So all around, it is really good. I like this card, 2 of. And that's my Zorga deck. All around, it's a very fun deck. You get a lot of versatility with the orders. If you can get orders in hand and in drop zone consistently, which this deck just never likes giving me orders in hand. It's either I get a lot of orders in hand but no orders in drop, or I get a lot of orders in drop and no orders in hand. That's always how it is. It's never somewhere in between. It's always that one. It's always one of those 2. So either way, if you have consistency with this deck, it's really fun playing because you get to kind of just screw around with your drop zone, call stuff from your drop zone that are dead, and then keep calling, and then retire them, and then call them right back, get a lot of power, and then rush them, and then they kind of just have to predict what you're going to do based off of what they see in your drop zone. So I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, go to the Patreon, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.